Hey guys, tonight we're going to take a long, slow, luxurious journey back in time, sinking into the warm, steamy embrace of ancient Rome's most beloved institution, the public bathhouse. Imagine, if you will, the bustling streets of Rome, the clamor of carts on cobblestones, the distant roar from the Colosseum, and then a sudden turn down a quieter lane, and the distinct, humid warmth that greets you even before you step inside. You can almost smell the faint scent of olive oil, perhaps a hint of perfume, and that unique, earthy aroma of warmed marble and damp stone. The air is thick, a comforting blanket that wraps around you, easing away the day's dust and anxieties. This isn't just a place to get clean. It's a sensory experience, a daily ritual, a cornerstone of Roman life. You're about to discover a world where hygiene was an art form, where social networking happened in the nude mostly, and where, frankly, if you time traveled back there, you'd probably feel incredibly awkward and possibly a little germ-phobic. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as always, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always wild to see how far these whispers travel. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself standing at the entrance of the Baths of Caracalla, or perhaps the Baths of Diocletian, monumental structures rising against the Roman sky, testaments to imperial power and public welfare. The sheer scale of the place is astounding, even by modern standards. Forget your local gym with its small sauna. This is an entire complex dedicated to relaxation, exercise, and social interaction. Your sandals scuff on the mosaic floor as you step inside, the sounds of the city muffled by the thick stone walls. The air is immediately warmer, infused with moisture. You notice the soft murmur of voices, the rhythmic splashing of water, and the distant thud of a ball hitting a wall. This isn't just a building, it's a small city unto itself. The first thing you do, of course, is pay your entrance fee. Now, this wasn't some exorbitant charge reserved for the elite. Quite the contrary. One of the most remarkable aspects of Roman bathhouses was their accessibility. The cost was incredibly low, often just a quadrans, the smallest Roman coin, roughly equivalent to a penny today. This meant that virtually everyone, from the lowliest slave to the most esteemed senator, could afford a daily visit. It was a democratic institution in a society that was anything but. Imagine that, your daily spa treatment costing less than a gumball. No wonder the Romans loved their baths so much. It was the ultimate affordable luxury. Once past the entrance, you're directed towards the Tepidarium, the changing room. Picture a large, vaulted hall, lined with small cubbies or niches carved into the walls. There are no lockers with keys here. Instead, you might find a slave and capsarius who would guard your belongings while you bathed. Trust was, apparently, a relative concept in ancient Rome, and petty theft was a common concern. You wouldn't want to emerge from a refreshing dip, only to find your toga, sandals, and perhaps your coin purse mysteriously absent. Some Romans even employed their own slaves to stand guard, highlighting the importance of personal security even in these public spaces. As you begin to disrobe, you'd notice the floor, often beautifully decorated with intricate mosaics, depicting sea creatures, mythological scenes, or geometric patterns. These weren't just pretty pictures. They added to the overall ambience, reminding you that this was a place designed for pleasure and aesthetic appreciation. The air here is already quite warm, preparing your body for the increasing heat you'll encounter in the subsequent rooms. You carefully fold your toga, perhaps hanging it on a peg, and slip off your sandals. The sensation of the cool mosaic tiles beneath your bare feet is surprisingly pleasant. You're shedding more than just your clothes. You're shedding the stresses of the day, preparing your mind and body for the unique ritual that awaits. Historians still argue whether the capsorius system was truly effective against theft, or if it was more of a symbolic gesture, offering a semblance of security in a bustling, often chaotic environment. Nevertheless, the practice persisted, highlighting a consistent Roman concern for personal property, even in public, with your belongings safely, hopefully, under the watchful eye of the capsorius. You're now clad only in a simple loincloth, or perhaps even entirely nude, depending on the custom of the specific bathhouse and your personal comfort level. It's a curious feeling, shedding the rigid social distinctions that your toga signified outside. Here, everyone is, quite literally, stripped down to their essential self. This wasn't just about practicalities. It was part of the leveling effect of the baths. You could be chatting with a powerful senator one moment and a freedman the next, all while equally vulnerable to a rogue splash. Your next move is often to the palestra, the outdoor exercise yard. Think of it as an ancient Roman health club, but with more dust and fewer protein shakes. This open-air courtyard is typically surrounded by colonnades, offering some shade. And it's where Romans would engage in various forms of physical activity before their bath. You might see men wrestling, their oiled bodies glistening in the sunlight, or engaging in a game of trigon, a fast-paced ball game involving 3 players forming a triangle. The ball itself could be surprisingly diverse. Some were filled with air, others with feathers, and some, entertainingly, with figs or even sand, which would make them quite heavy for a game of catch. Imagine the surprise of catching a fig-filled ball. Talk about a sticky situation. Beyond the ball games, you'd observe people lifting weights, essentially large stones, or perhaps practicing their javelin throwing. It wasn't about intense, muscle-building workouts as we know them today, but more about light exercise to stimulate circulation and prepare the body for the heat. Some might simply stroll leisurely, chatting with friends, using the palestra as an initial social gathering point. The atmosphere is generally relaxed, a gentle hum of activity rather than a frantic gym rush. This pre-bath exercise was considered essential, not just for physical well-being, but also to build up a good sweat, which was believed to aid in the cleansing process. It's a testament to the Roman understanding of health that they combined physical exertion with their hygiene rituals, long before wellness became a buzzword. After a suitable period of light exercise, or perhaps just a casual stroll, it's time for the first major step in the bathing ritual, the anointing. You or a slave would rub your entire body with olive oil, not just a little dab, but a generous coating. This wasn't merely for moisturizing, it served multiple purposes. Firstly, it helped to open the pores and induce sweating, preparing the skin for the heat of the next rooms. Secondly, and perhaps most importantly, it acted as a cleanser. In a time before soap as we know it, olive oil was the primary agent for lifting dirt, sweat, and dead skin cells from the body. It would mix with the grime, forming a sort of ancient, biodegradable scrub. The sensation of the oil being smoothed onto your skin is surprisingly pleasant, a rich, earthy scent filling the air around you. The process of oiling was often a social one. Friends might oil each other's backs, or you might employ a specialist slave for the task, ensuring every inch was thoroughly coated. It's a moment of physical intimacy, a quiet, shared ritual before the cacophony of the hotter rooms. This extensive use of olive oil is a fascinating detail. Historians still argue whether different grades of oil were used for anointing versus cooking, or if it was largely interchangeable depending on availability and personal wealth. What is certain is that the Roman economy consumed vast quantities of it, much of which was destined for the bathhouses. So, next time you see a bottle of extra virgin, just remember, you're looking at a product with a very long and surprisingly clean history. Having sweated profusely in the Frigidarium, your body now glistens with a mixture of sweat, olive oil, and loosened grime. This is where the real cleaning part of the Roman bath experience comes into play, a process that might seem a little barbaric by modern standards, but was considered utterly essential. You reach for your strigil, a curved metal tool, typically made of bronze, iron, or even silver for the very wealthy, resembling a spoon or a scoop with a handle. The purpose of the strigil is to scrape away the oil, sweat, and accumulated dirt from your skin. Imagine a gentle yet firm scraping motion starting from your arms, moving down your chest, back, and legs. It's surprisingly effective. The oil acts as a solvent, trapping the impurities, and the strigil then removes this concoction. In long, satisfying strokes, you'd feel the gunk being peeled away, leaving your skin feeling remarkably clean and smooth underneath. It's a bit like using a squeegee on a window, but on your body. The sensation can be quite invigorating, a physical shedding of the day's accumulated grime and fatigue. While you could certainly strigil yourself, and many Romans did, it was also common to have a slave perform this task for you. These slaves, often trained in the art of the strigil, would skillfully maneuver the tool, reaching those awkward spots on your back that are impossible to get on your own. There's a particular rhythm to it, a gentle pressure that ensures maximum removal without causing discomfort. For the truly affluent, having a personal strigil slave was a clear status symbol, a demonstration of wealth and leisure. You'd see them circulating, sometimes with small jars of perfumed oils for post-strigiling application. After the initial scraping, the slave or you might pour some warm water over your body to rinse off any remaining residue. This would be followed by more gentle scraping. It's a thorough, multi-stage process designed to leave you feeling utterly purified. The sheer volume of discarded oil and sweat collected from the strigils would be, well, considerable. Some historians suggest that the scrapings, particularly from athletes, were even collected and bottled to be sold as a kind of ancient cosmetic or medicinal unguent believed to have healing properties. Talk about recycling. You probably wouldn't survive seeing that on a modern beauty shelf, but for Romans, it was apparently a thing. This practice of strigiling highlights a fundamental difference in ancient Roman hygiene compared to our own. We use soap to emulsify dirt and then rinse it away. They used oil to dissolve it and then scraped it off. Both methods achieve cleanliness, but the tactile experience is vastly different. Historians still argue whether the strigil was primarily for cleansing or also served as a form of massage, stimulating circulation and muscle relaxation. What's clear is that it was an indispensable tool for every Roman bathgoer, as iconic as the toga itself. The rhythmic sound of strigils scraping against skin, a soft hiss and a gentle thud, would have been a constant backdrop to the sounds of the calidarium and the subsequent rooms. An ancient symphony of cleanliness, refreshed, scraped, and feeling. Remarkably clean from the hot room and strigiling, you're now ready for the final invigorating shock of the Roman bath ritual, the Frigidarium. This is the cold plunge, the ultimate contrast to the intense heat you've just endured. Imagine walking from a sweltering desert into a crisp mountain spring. That's the sensation you're about to experience as you approach the Frigidarium. You'll notice the air immediately becomes cooler, fresher, carrying a bracing chill. The room itself is often spacious, with high ceilings and ample natural light, sometimes even open to the sky in part. In the center, or along one wall, lies the cold plunge pool, a large, deep basin filled with unheated water, often fed directly by an aqueduct. The water is genuinely cold, probably somewhere around Y-60 degrees Fahrenheit, Y-15 degrees Celsius, depending on the season and the source. There's no gradual easing in here. It's a plunge. Stepping to the edge of the pool, you might hesitate for a moment, steeling yourself. The contrast with the calidarium is extreme, almost jarring. Then, with a deep breath, you descend the steps, or perhaps even take a running leap into the icy embrace. The initial sensation is a sharp, invigorating shock that makes you gasp. Your skin prickles, and your circulation immediately rushes to the surface, leaving you feeling alive and buzzing. It's a sensory explosion, a wake-up call for every nerve ending in your body. The purpose of the Frigidarium was multifaceted. Firstly, it was believed to close the pores that had been opened by the heat, helping to tone the skin and prevent chills. After all, you didn't want to leave the baths feeling clammy and vulnerable to illness. Secondly, it was profoundly invigorating. The sudden cold stimulated the blood flow, clearing the mind and leaving you feeling energized and refreshed. It's the ancient Roman equivalent of a cold shower in the morning, amplified. Many Romans believed it promoted good health and longevity, warding off ailments by strengthening the body. It's a concept that endures in modern wellness practices. From cryotherapy to ice baths, you wouldn't linger in the Frigidarium for long. A quick dip, perhaps a few strokes across the pool, and then out you come, dripping and exhilarated. The immediate aftermath is a delightful sensation of warmth spreading through your body as your circulation normalizes. The chill recedes, replaced by a comfortable internal glow. You might grab a clean linen cloth to dry off the coarse fabric, feeling surprisingly pleasant against your newly invigorated skin. This entire sequence of hot-cold therapy was central to the Roman understanding of physical well-being. Historians still argue whether the Frigidarium was primarily for health benefits or if its psychological effect, the bracing shock and subsequent feeling of revitalization, was equally, if not more, important to the bathers. What is clear is that it was an indispensable part of the cycle, the grand finale to the cleansing process. Imagine the laughter and gasps of bathers as they braved the cold plunge, turning a necessary hygienic step into a communal, exhilarating experience. It certainly beats a lukewarm shower at home, doesn't it? Just don't forget your towel, or you'll be shivering your way back to the Tepidarium. Having braved the exhilarating chill of the Frigidarium, you now emerge, feeling incredibly clean, refreshed, and invigorated. But the Roman bath experience wasn't just about cleansing the body. It was a holistic approach to well-being that included a range of post-bath luxuries. This is where the relaxation truly deepened, transforming a hygienic necessity into a deeply pleasurable ritual. Often, after the cold plunge and a quick drying, you would return to the Tepidarium or a similar warm, comfortable lounging area. This allowed your body to gradually return to a normal temperature without a sudden shock. Here, the focus shifts entirely from active cleansing to passive indulgence. Imagine sinking into a soft couch or reclining on a warm marble bench, feeling the last vestiges of tension melt away. The air is still humid, but less intense, perfect for a lingering sense of calm. One of the most popular post-bath treatments was the massage, whether performed by a trained slave, a masseur known as an unctor, or even by a friend. A good massage was considered essential for complete relaxation and muscle recovery. The massage wouldn't necessarily be as deep tissue focused as modern massages. It was often lighter, using various perfumed oils to soothe the skin and further enhance the feeling of well-being. These oils weren't just for fragrance. They helped to moisturize the skin after the intense heat and scraping, leaving it supple and smooth. Imagine the delicate scent of rose, saffron, or even more exotic fragrances like myrrh or frankincense mingling in the air, a delightful contrast to the earlier earthy smells of olive oil and sweat. Beyond general massages, specialized treatments were also available. You might opt for a head massage, focusing on easing tension in the scalp, or a foot massage, a welcome relief after a day spent walking on hard Roman streets. Some bathhouses even had dedicated rooms for these services, providing a more private and serene environment. It's the ancient equivalent of visiting a high-end spa, complete with all the pampering. While men generally kept their hair short, women often had elaborate hairstyles that required considerable attention. After the bath, a slave might be employed to dry, comb, and style hair, sometimes using heated curling irons or intricate braids. It was an art form, with certain styles signifying social status or adherence to current fashion trends. Even men might have their beards trimmed or shaven by a tonsure, a barber, completing their transformation from dusty citizen to polished Roman. A quirky detail: some Roman doctors actually prescribed specific bathing routines, including the type of oils and massages, as part of medical treatment for various ailments. So, your trip to the baths wasn't just a leisure activity. It could literally be doctor's orders. Historians still argue whether the perceived health benefits of these elaborate post-bath rituals were purely psychosomatic, or if the combination of relaxation, skincare, and massage truly contributed to physical well-being. Regardless, the feeling of utter contentment and revitalization after these treatments was undeniable. You emerge from the bathhouse not just clean, but utterly transformed, ready to face the world with renewed vigor and a subtle, pleasant aroma clinging to your skin as you step out of the dedicated bath areas, enveloped in a cloud of subtle fragrance and feeling utterly rejuvenated. You begin to grasp the true essence of the Roman bathhouse. It was far more than just a place for hygiene. It was the veritable social hub of Rome, a vibrant ecosystem where the pulse of the city truly beat. Imagine your local community center, gym, library, spa, and gossip lounge all rolled into one magnificent marbled complex. This was where Rome connected. Think about it. After the physical rituals of bathing and pampering, Romans didn't just rush home, they lingered. The bath complex often included extensive public spaces beyond the hot and cold rooms. There would be open courtyards, covered promenades, porticos, and perhaps even dedicated meeting rooms or small libraries. These areas buzzed with activity, serving as informal gathering places where people from all walks of life mingled. You'd see senators discussing legislation, merchants striking deals, poets reciting their latest verses, and lovers stealing whispered moments. The sheer accessibility of the baths contributed immensely to their social significance. As we mentioned, the entrance fee was so minimal that virtually everyone could afford it, breaking down some of the rigid social barriers that existed elsewhere in Roman society. While the very wealthy might have their own private baths at home, the public baths offered a unique opportunity for social mixing. A freedman might find himself sharing a bench with a patrician, discussing the latest chariot race or the price of grain. Of course, strict social hierarchies never entirely disappeared, but within the baths, the playing field felt a little more level. It was a place where reputation and influence could be gained or lost through casual conversation and networking. For many Romans, particularly those of modest means, the baths represented one of the few opportunities for daily leisure and entertainment. Outside of work, it was a chance to escape the cramped confines of their homes, to relax, and to engage with their community. Imagine the sheer volume of conversations, the exchange of news and rumors, the forging of connections that occurred daily within these walls. If you wanted to know what was truly happening in Rome, you didn't necessarily go to the forum, you went to the baths. This was the ancient equivalent of social media, but with way more sweating and actual human contact. A classic, gentle joke. How did Romans communicate before text messages? They just went to the baths and shouted across the Frigidarium. Okay, maybe not shouting, but definitely talking. Historians still argue whether the primary motivation for attending the baths was truly hygiene, or if the social aspect, the opportunity for networking and leisure, was the greater draw for the average Roman citizen. It's likely a bit of both, a symbiotic relationship where physical well-being and social connection reinforced each other. The sheer architectural grandeur of the bathhouses also played a role in their social function. They were impressive, public works, symbols of Roman might and generosity, encouraging civic pride and collective gathering. You'd walk through these magnificent structures and feel a sense of belonging, a part of something grander than yourself. It was truly the heart of Roman community life. As you reflect on the vibrant social tapestry woven within the Roman bathhouse, a crucial question arises. What about the women? How did Roman women participate in this quintessential daily ritual? The answer, as with many aspects of Roman life, is complex and varies depending on the period, the specific bathhouse, and prevailing social norms. Initially, in the earlier periods of Roman history, it was more common for men and women to bathe separately. This could be achieved in a few ways. Some bathhouses were designed with entirely separate sections for men and women, featuring distinct entrances, apodyteria, tepidaria, and frigidaria. Imagine parallel universes of bathing, each with its own rhythm and clientele. These separate facilities maintained a sense of decorum and privacy, reflecting the societal expectations of gender segregation in many public spheres. Alternatively, some bathhouses, particularly smaller ones, or those in less conservative towns, might have designated specific hours for men and women. For instance, women might have access in the morning, while men used the facilities in the afternoon and evening. This scheduling allowed the same physical spaces to be utilized by both genders at different times, maximizing efficiency. You can almost picture the handover, a bustling moment as one group departed and the other arrived, perhaps with a quick cleanup in between. However, as the Roman Empire evolved, so too did social customs. There is archaeological and historical evidence suggesting that co-ed bathing, or at least mixed-gender bathing, within the same complex at the same time became more prevalent, especially from the 1st century AD onwards. This was a subject of considerable debate and even moral outrage among some conservative Romans, who viewed it as scandalous and a sign of societal decay. Roman moralists like Seneca the Younger lamented the perceived laxity of morals and the unseemly mixing of the sexes in the baths. He probably would have fainted if he saw a modern swimming pool. Despite these criticisms, mixed bathing clearly gained traction. This could mean men and women using the same pools and rooms simultaneously, though perhaps maintaining some distance. Or it could refer to simply being within the same larger complex, rather than strictly separate facilities. The exact nature of this mixed bathing is still a subject of scholarly debate. Historians still argue whether mixed bathing implied full nudity for both sexes, or if women continued to wear some form of attire, like a bikini-like garment or a simple tunic, for modesty. There's also discussion about the social dynamics. Was it truly integrated, or did men and women largely stick to their own groups, even when in the same space? A quirky detail to illustrate the point: Emperor Hadrian, who reigned from 117 to 138 AD, actually issued an edict banning mixed bathing in an attempt to restore traditional morals. Yet, despite imperial decrees, the practice seems to have persisted, suggesting that public opinion and social habits were often stronger than governmental prohibitions. It tells you a lot about the allure of the baths and the Roman desire for social interaction. So, while women certainly participated in the Roman bath culture, their experience often involved a different set of rules or expectations compared to their male counterparts, reflecting the broader gender roles of Roman society. Even when those roles were being subtly challenged within the steamy confines of the beyond the senators, merchants, and even the women we've just discussed. The Roman bathhouses were truly microcosms of Roman society, and that included children and slaves. Their presence and roles within these bustling complexes offer fascinating insights into the everyday lives of these often overlooked segments of the population. you might not immediately picture toddlers splashing in the Frigidarium or a slave enjoying a post-shift dip, but their involvement was integral. Children, for instance, were often present in the baths, particularly younger ones. For Roman families, a trip to the baths wasn't just an adult activity. It could be a family outing. You would see mothers bringing their younger children, perhaps teaching them how to swim in the cooler pools or simply allowing them to play in the less intense areas. The atmosphere, especially in the more open courtyards or shallower sections of the pools, would have been lively with children's chatter and laughter. It wasn't just for recreation either. It was part of their early education in Roman civic life and hygiene. Imagine a Roman child's equivalent of swimming lessons, learning to navigate the warm, steamy halls and the refreshing chill of the cold plunge from a young age. However, older boys, especially those nearing adulthood, would have been more integrated into the male bathing rituals, often accompanying their fathers or male guardians. They'd learn the proper etiquette, observe the social interactions, and even participate in the palestra's exercises. For them, the baths were a rite of passage, a place to learn the unwritten rules of Roman masculinity and public life. Slaves, on the other hand, played a far more complex and essential role. They were the invisible workforce that kept the entire bathhouse system running. Thousands of slaves would have been employed in a large imperial bath, performing a multitude of tasks. You'd see them stoking the furnaces of the hypocaust system, a hot and grueling job requiring constant attention to maintain the precise temperatures in the various rooms. Other slaves would be responsible for cleaning the pools, sweeping the floors, and maintaining the vast complex, ensuring it remained hygienic and aesthetically pleasing. Then there were the personal slaves who accompanied their masters to the baths. These were the capsari guarding belongings, the unctors applying oils and performing massages, and the attendants who would fetch towels, serve refreshments, or assist their masters with striggling. For many of these slaves, their entire workday revolved around facilitating the leisure of others within the bathhouse. It was a demanding existence, yet for some, it might have offered a degree of stability or even a chance to interact with higher status. Romans, a rather curious aspect. Some historians suggest that certain bathhouses might have had designated areas or times where slaves could bathe themselves, perhaps after their duties were complete, or in less luxurious sections. This wasn't always a given, as slaves were considered property. But it speaks to the pervasive nature of bathing in Roman society. Even those at the very bottom of the social hierarchy sometimes had access. Historians still argue whether slaves received formal training in their bathhouse duties, particularly for specialized roles like massage, or if it was simply learned through observation and practice on the job. Regardless, their expertise was crucial. So, while you're enjoying your relaxing dip, spare a thought for the unseen hands that made it all possible. From the children splashing playfully to the tireless slaves tending the fires and scrubbing the floors. Having explored the demographics of the Roman bathhouse, from the senators to the slaves and children, let's now dive into the sheer vibrancy of the activities that took place within its walls beyond mere washing. The baths were epicenters of entertainment, a cacophony of games, gossip, and even illicit gambling. If the forum was where Rome did its serious business, the baths were where it truly let its hair down. Imagine the sheer noise and energy of the place. While some areas were designed for quiet contemplation, others, like the palestra and the main congregating halls, would have been alive with a joyous din. You'd hear the thwack of a ball from a game of trigon, the shouts and grunts of wrestlers, and the general hum of hundreds of conversations, all happening at once. It wasn't always soothing ASMR. Sometimes it was pure Roman chaos, in the best possible way. Games were a staple. We've already touched on trigon in the palestra, but there were many other diversions. Board games, similar to checkers or backgammon, would have been played on marble tables. Romans were avid gamblers, and while direct evidence of organized gambling within the bath facilities is sparse due to its often illicit nature, it's highly probable that dice games and wagers on everything from sporting contests to political outcomes were rampant in the more relaxed corners. Imagine a quiet group huddled around a mosaic table, the clatter of dice echoing softly, bets being placed on the outcome of a game of duodecim scripta, a board game somewhat akin to modern backgammon. It was a common pastime, and the baths provided the perfect informal setting. Then there was the omnipresent gossip. The baths were the Roman rumor mill, the primary source of news, both factual and scandalous, with people from all social strata mingling. Information, secrets, and juicy tidbits would flow freely. You'd overhear a senator complaining about his wife, a merchant boasting about a profitable venture, or whispers about a new emperor's questionable decisions. It was where reputations were made and broken, where alliances were forged, and where the latest scandal spread faster than wildfire. Forget Twitter. The Roman baths were the original viral platform, a subtle, slightly cheeky detail. You might even hear someone quietly complaining about the quality of the olive oil that day, or perhaps a humorous anecdote about a fellow bather's snoring in the Tepidarium. Life's little absurdities were certainly on full display. Beyond the games and gossip, there were less savory activities too. While the baths were public spaces, their very openness and the ease of mingling could lead to illicit encounters. Prostitution, for example, was known to occur in the vicinity of poor, sometimes even discreetly within larger bath complexes, despite official disapproval. There were also opportunities for petty theft, as the capsorius system, though present, wasn't foolproof. The very nature of a crowded, often steamy, semi-nude environment meant that vigilance was always required, even amidst the relaxation. Historians still argue about the extent to which these illicit activities were tolerated or actively suppressed by bathhouse managers and authorities. It likely varied greatly depending on the specific bath, its location, and the prevailing social climate. What is undeniable is that the Roman baths, for all their grandeur and purpose, were vibrant, living spaces that reflected the full spectrum of Roman society, from its highest ideals of communal well-being to its more mischievous and human impulses. It's a reminder that even in ancient times, people sought out places where they could both relax and indulge in life's little pleasures and vices. Having explored the vibrant social ecosystem of the Roman bathhouse, it's impossible to overlook the sheer brilliance of the structures themselves. These weren't just functional buildings. They were architectural and engineering marvels, testaments to Roman ingenuity and their profound understanding of public works. You stand amidst the ruins of what were once magnificent edifices, and even in their decay, their grandeur is palpable. Consider the scale. The imperial baths, like those of Caracalla or Diocletian, were gargantuan complexes covering acres of land. They weren't just single buildings, but sprawling networks of rooms, courtyards, gardens, gymnasiums, and even libraries. Imagine walking into a structure that could accommodate thousands of people simultaneously, all enjoying different activities, and all within a climate-controlled environment. The logistics alone are mind-boggling. It was a testament, power, and its commitment to the welfare and entertainment of its citizens. The engineering behind the baths was truly revolutionary. We've already touched upon the hypocaust system, which provided sophisticated underfloor and wall heating. This wasn't merely a few pipes. It was an intricate network of ceramic tiles and pillars that channeled hot air from external furnaces, heating vast expanses of stone. Maintaining the precise temperatures across multiple rooms, from the Tepidarium's gentle warmth to the Calidarium's intense heat, required immense skill and constant management. It was an ancient HVAC system on an epic scale, predating modern climate control by nearly 2 millennia. Then there was the water management. Roman baths required prodigious amounts of water, fresh water for the plunge pools and fountains, and a continuous supply for heating and waste removal. This was supplied by the famous Roman aqueducts, incredible feats of civil engineering that transported water from distant sources directly into the city. Within the baths, a complex system of pipes, lead or ceramic, distributed water to the various pools, fountains, and latrines. And just as crucial was the drainage system, ensuring that wastewater was efficiently carried away, maintaining hygiene and preventing stagnation. Imagine the constant flow, the endless gush and trickle, a subtle soundtrack to the daily routines. Aesthetically, the baths were often breathtaking. They were adorned with lavish materials, imported marbles of various colors, intricate mosaic, floors depicting mythological scenes or geometric patterns, and impressive statues of gods, heroes, and emperors. The ceilings were often vaulted and massive, creating a sense of awe and grandeur. Natural light was ingeniously used, with large windows and skylights illuminating the interiors, creating dynamic interplay of light and shadow on the reflective surfaces of water and marble. It was designed to be beautiful, a visual feast that enhanced the overall experience of luxury and relaxation. A quirky engineering fact: some bathhouses were even designed to capture and reuse some of the heat from the hot rooms to warm adjacent spaces, or even the water for the Tepidarium, demonstrating an early understanding of energy efficiency. Historians still argue whether the primary driving force behind the monumental scale of the imperial baths was purely public utility and health, or if they were largely propaganda tools designed to showcase the power and generosity of the emperors to the populace. Either way, these structures stand as enduring monuments to Roman architectural prowess, shaping not only Roman life but influencing public building design for centuries to come. You can almost hear the echoes of laughter and splashing within these silent, impressive ruins. Having marveled at the architectural and engineering wonders of the Roman bathhouses, let's now consider a more practical aspect: the cost and accessibility. We've touched upon it briefly, but it's worth delving deeper into how these grand institutions managed to be so universally available, a fascinating contrast to the often exclusive nature of luxury amenities in other historical periods. As previously mentioned, the entrance fee for the public baths was extraordinarily low, typically a quadrans. To put this in perspective, a quadrans was the smallest denomination of a Roman coin, worth perhaps a quarter of a Roman penny. This was a deliberate policy. Emperors and wealthy patrons often subsidized the baths, viewing them not just as a public service, but as a tool for maintaining social order and winning popular favor. By making the baths virtually free, they ensured that even the poorest citizens, including slaves, who, if they weren't working there, might still be able to visit, perhaps on their master's time, or at their own expense if they had any coin, could partake in this daily ritual of hygiene and leisure. This low cost had profound social implications. It meant that the baths truly were open to everyone, creating a unique space where the vast social stratification of Rome was, at least momentarily, somewhat less pronounced. Imagine a senator and a common laborer sharing the same calidarium, both sweating equally. While the senator might have a retinue of slaves to assist him, and perhaps use more expensive, perfumed oils, the fundamental experience of bathing was accessible to all. This widespread accessibility was a key factor in the baths becoming such a central part of Roman daily life, not just for the elite, but for the entire populace. Beyond the nominal entry fee, other costs might have included the services of a slave to guard your belongings. The capsorius might expect a small tip, or a masseur unctor, or the purchase of specific perfumed oils. These were optional extras, however, not prerequisites for entry or the basic bathing experience. For many, a simple visit involved just the quadrans and perhaps their own strigil and basic olive oil. This system ensured that a full and satisfying bath experience was within reach for nearly everyone. This public access was a stark contrast to the private baths found in the villas of the extremely wealthy. These private baths, while luxurious, lacked the vibrant social atmosphere and scale of the public complexes. They were a personal indulgence, not a communal gathering point. The public baths, however, were an embodiment of Roman civic life and a remarkable early example of publicly funded wellness and social infrastructure. A slightly sarcastic Roman joke might have been, "Why did the beggar go to the baths? Because it was the only place he could get clean for the price of a dirty look." A bit harsh, but it highlights the affordability. Historians still argue whether the extreme affordability of the baths was a genuine reflection of Roman altruism towards its citizens, or a shrewd political move by emperors to keep the masses content and prevent unrest. It's likely a combination of both, a strategic investment in public well-being that also served imperial interests. Regardless of the underlying motivations, the fact remains, for a tiny coin, you could escape the grime of the city and immerse yourself in a world of warmth, relaxation, and social connection. It was truly a cornerstone of Roman life, available to all. We've journeyed through the steamy halls, felt the invigorating cold plunge, and understood the vibrant social pulse of the Roman bathhouse. But, like all great empires and institutions, the era of the grand Roman baths eventually faded. Understanding their decline offers a fascinating glimpse into the broader changes that swept across the Roman world. The golden age of the public. Baths reaching its zenith during the High Empire, roughly 1st to 3rd centuries AD, began to wane as the Western Roman Empire itself faced increasing pressures. Several factors contributed to their eventual decline, transforming them from the indispensable social centers they once were into increasingly neglected relics. One major factor was the economic decline and instability that plagued the later Roman Empire. Maintaining these colossal structures was incredibly expensive. The hypo-cost heating systems consumed vast quantities of wood, requiring extensive logistical networks for supply. The aqueducts needed constant repair and maintenance. As imperial coffers dwindled and resources became scarcer, the funds necessary to upkeep these monumental complexes simply weren't always available. You can imagine the slow decay, a leaky pipe here, a furnace left unlit there, gradually diminishing the quality of the experience. Another significant blow came with the invasions and disruptions from various barbarian tribes. As Roman cities were sacked or abandoned, essential infrastructure like aqueducts were often damaged or outright destroyed. Without a reliable supply of fresh water, the baths, which relied on continuous flow, simply could not function. Imagine a bathhouse, once teeming with life, slowly becoming a dry, empty shell as its water source vanishes. This physical destruction directly led to the abandonment of many bath complexes in the Western Empire. Furthermore, the rise of Christianity played a subtle but significant role. While early Christians weren't universally against bathing, the opulent, often communal, and sometimes morally questionable from their perspective, aspects of the public baths began to clash with the emerging Christian ethos of asceticism and modesty. The nakedness, the mixed bathing, the gossip, and the occasional illicit activities were increasingly viewed with disapproval. As Christianity gained prominence and eventually became the state religion, the cultural emphasis shifted away from the public, pagan-associated rituals of the baths. You can almost hear the sermons condemning the vanities of the bathhouse, pushing people towards more private forms of hygiene. A quirky observation from this period, as the large public baths fell into disuse, wealthy Romans sometimes reverted to building smaller private baths within their villas, echoing the earlier traditions, but without the grand communal aspect. It was a retreat from the public sphere into a more controlled, domestic one. Historians still argue about the precise weighting of these factors in the decline of the baths. Was it primarily economic collapse, barbarian invasions, or the changing cultural landscape brought about by Christianity? It's most likely a complex interplay of all three, with each contributing to the slow, inevitable decline. By the 5th and 6th centuries, many of the great imperial baths in the West stood as silent, crumbling monuments, their marbles stripped for other buildings, their hypocausts cold and dark. Their grandeur became a melancholic reminder of a bygone era of public luxury and civic life, a silent testament to the impermanence of even the most robust institutions. Though the grand Roman bathhouses eventually fell silent and crumbled into magnificent ruins, their legacy is far from forgotten. In fact, their influence echoes profoundly in modern wellness practices and architectural design, demonstrating how truly enduring some ancient concepts can be. You might not realize it, but elements of your own self-care routines owe a nod to those ancient Romans. Consider the ubiquitous presence of the sauna and steam room in modern gyms and spas. This direct lineage back to the Roman calidarium is undeniable. The core principle, using intense heat to induce sweating for detoxification and relaxation, is precisely what the Romans mastered with their hypocaust system. Whether you're basking in dry heat or enveloped in humid steam, you're participating in a ritual that would feel instantly familiar to a Roman bather. The feeling of pores opening, muscles relaxing, and stress melting away is a timeless sensation perfected. Thousands of years ago, the concept of cold plunges and hydrotherapy also finds its roots directly in the Roman Frigidarium. From modern ice baths used by athletes for recovery to the invigorating cold showers recommended for circulation, the idea of using cold water for its health benefits is a direct descendant of the Roman practice. That exhilarating shock, followed by a rush of warmth, is a sensation that transcends millennia. Beyond the individual elements, the very idea of a holistic wellness complex owes much to the Romans. Modern spas often combine heat and cold therapies, massage services, relaxation areas, and even social spaces. This integrated approach, where physical well-being is intertwined with mental relaxation and social interaction, is a direct inheritance from the Roman bathhouse model. They understood that true well-being wasn't just about getting clean, it was about nurturing the body, mind, and spirit in a communal setting. Imagine your local health club, but with way more marble and fewer selfie sticks. Even in architecture and urban planning, the Roman baths left an indelible mark. The grand scale, the vaulted ceilings, the use of natural light, and the integration of functional spaces with aesthetic beauty, these elements have inspired architects for centuries. From the Renaissance to modern public buildings, think of grand train stations, museums, or even some legislative buildings. Many, consciously or unconsciously, echo the monumentality and spaciousness pioneered by Roman bath design, a quirky reflection. The social aspect of the baths, where people gathered to chat and connect, is echoed in our modern coffee shop culture, or even the casual social areas within gyms. While we might not be discussing philosophy in a state of partial undress, the human need for communal gathering and informal interaction remains constant. Historians still debate whether the Roman baths influenced bathing practices in the East, like the Turkish hammam, through direct cultural diffusion, or if similar needs led to independent parallel developments. What is certain is that the Roman model was incredibly influential across vast swaths of their empire. So, as you drift off, remember that the warmth of your own bed, the comfort of your clean sheets, and perhaps even the soothing thought of a warm bath or shower carry with them the faint, comforting echoes of those ancient Roman bathhouses. They remind us that even thousands of years ago, people understood the profound connection between cleanliness, comfort, and a truly peaceful state of being. Word count 1009. As the last remnants of ancient Roman steam dissipate from your mind's eye and the echoes of distant splashing grow faint, allow your own breath to deepen and slow. Feel the gentle warmth of your blankets, a soft counterpoint to the imagined heat of the calidarium and the bracing chill of the frigidarium. The sounds of the ancient world fade, replaced by the quiet hum of your own space. There is nothing left to do, nowhere left to be, but here. Let your mind release any lingering thoughts, any small worries of the day. As easily as the Romans shed their grime in the warm waters, feel yourself settling deeply and completely into the soft contours of your bed, knowing that the day is done and a peaceful night awaits. Just as the Romans found solace and renewal in their daily ritual, may you find the same tranquil restoration in the quiet sanctuary of your sleep. Let the rhythm of your breathing become a gentle lullaby, carrying you further into slumber.